I thought I'd explain to you what the differences were between anxiety and worry, or at the very least, how they work together. What part do they play in all this mayhem that they're causing? All right, and then I thought I'd illustrate this for you. So, if we've got anxiety, right, which anxiety is broader than worry, and worry often occurs as a part of anxiety, although it doesn't have to, but often it occurs as a part of it. So we've got anxiety here, and worry, if it is present, it's a part of it. So, and a simple way to understand the difference is anxiety is the broader state of threat or uncertainty, along with the different components that I'm going to explain to you just briefly now. It affects your emotions, your body, your attention, and your behavior. Worry, on the other hand, is the thinking process that often happens within anxiety. And it is the repetitive, verbal, future-oriented thinking. Okay? Repetitive, it's verbal, it's future-oriented thinking. And your mind uses worry to analyze, to predict, to prepare for, or to solve, ideally, a possible problem, although that tends to be an elusive goal with worry. So anxiety often begins when the brain interprets something as a possible threat. Okay, that's the beginning. That's the entry point into anxiety. You'll see in a minute here. So the threat does not have to be immediate or certain, and it can be something that might happen in the future, something uncertain, or something you fear losing or you believe could go wrong. Even a thought or a sensation that the brain interprets as meaningful. So this interpretation we're talking about is called the threat appraisal. Threat appraisal. This is an important term here. And threat appraisal is the moment your mind assigns meaning to something. It gives it a meaning as being threatening. So it could be a problem, and the appraisal might be, I might not be able to handle this. Something may be wrong. That is anxiety beginning. So worry is often what comes next. Your mind starts trying to deal with the perceived threat. And so this is worry at play here now. It's going to sound like this. What if this happens? What if I can't handle it? What do I do to prevent this? Right? You've worried before. I mean, it could be a million different sentences or verbal statements you make to yourself or you start answering. What if they do this? What if this happens? What if I lose this? So these are the what if questions, right? Worry is what if statements, right? What if this happens? What if that happens? Now, the difference is that anxiety is the experience of threat, right? While worry is the mental attempt to manage the threat. So with anxiety, you've got the emotional component, you've got the physiological component, which is different. You've got behavior and you've got attention, right? It's a total package. It's the experience of threat. Whereas worry is the mental attempt to manage the threat, right? I'm worried. I'm thinking this over, right? I'm busy thinking, creating scenarios, and then possible solutions. How I would react. How can we solve this? What can we do? How do we prepare for it? So, anxiety is not just thoughts, right? When worry is a part of it, you've got the thinking part in anxiety, but anxiety can involve emotional responses like fear, like apprehension, unease, tension, or distress. And it can also involve physical changes, right? We're talking about physiological, like increased arousal, the muscle tension, changes in breathing and heart rate, or restlessness, these types of things. So these reactions are part of anxiety, not part of worry, right? So it's important that you make that distinction. So you can experience anxiety without worry, without this chain of worrying thoughts. You can experience anxiety. And anyone who's had anxiety knows this all too well. You could be thinking of nothing, yet you've got anxiety. You feel it, you know it's there. So the the anxiety also changes where your attention goes, right? That's an important point here. When your brain detects possible threat, the information related to that threat becomes more important. Your attention becomes more likely to focus on possible problems or uncertainty or bodily sensations or negative outcomes. So anxiety changes what information your brain prioritizes. And worry then uses that threat focused attention because anxiety makes you focus on threats, right? Even things that are neutral or normal, you start to see them as threatening, potentially. So worry uses that to continue thinking about possible problems and uncertain outcomes. And that's also why worry feels difficult to stop, right? Because you've got this anxiety that's focusing your attention, and you're picking up threats and things that aren't even really threats. And then your worrying is just kind of jumping onto the bandwagon and saying, okay, this is a possible threat, this is a possible problem. So worry feels like it serves a purpose. It feels like if you think through enough possibilities, you may be able to prepare yourself or prevent the problem or at least gain more control and reduce the uncertainty. So, in a sense, worry is not just random negative thinking, it's an attempt to solve a problem that may not have a clear solution. So, anxiety can also influence behavior, right? People may avoid situations, they can seek reassurance, they can prepare excessively as attempt to reduce the uncertainty or prevent something from happening that you find fearful. And worry can function in a similar way, but internally. So instead of taking action in the outside world, the mind attempts to control the threat through repeated thinking, right? So worry is doing its job with this internal verbal thinking. Anxiety, it's doing its job on the outside by affecting your behavior. So anxiety and worry also influence each other. So when anxiety increases, threat-related information becomes more important, which makes worry more likely. And when worry continues, it keeps your attention focused on possible problems and uncertain outcomes. And that can maintain the anxiety. So the simplest way to understand the difference is this. Anxiety is the broader experience of perceived threat. It includes emotional responses, physical sensations, changes in attention, and behaviors related to dealing with the threat. The worry is the repetitive thinking process within anxiety. It involves mentally trying to predict, to prepare for, or solve, or analyze, or solve possible future problems. So, understanding this difference matters because anxiety is not maintained only by the thoughts that you have. The thoughts are only one part of the experience. The emotional response, the physical sensations, attention patterns, and the behaviors involved in anxiety also influence how the worry develops and continues.